Battlefield's Battle Royale is a good, fun take on the mode, but in its current state, I'd say it isn't robust enough for hardcore Warzone players, nor an experience that lives up to the expectations of Battlefield vets. While the mode checks all the boxes to be an enjoyable and perhaps more accessible Battle Royale, it lacks the polish, grittiness, nor innovation that fans have come to expect from the franchise, as well as the depth, platform, or vibes of its counterparts. And that's not to say that it's not fun, as I often find myself having a great time in this mode, but usually despite RedSec's shortcomings rather than because of any unique advantages outside of its reluctance to use SBMM. I think SkillUp said it best. While the mode is enjoyable, there's no reason for Battle Royale fans to leave the incredibly entrenched competition with Warzone, Apex, or Tarkov in exchange for an unproven newcomer that doesn't have anything all that new to offer. And on the flip side, I don't think there's enough of that Battlefield DNA to keep traditional fans interested. It's honestly a mode that's trying to have its cake and eat it too, trying to convince Battlefield fans to give it a chance because of the squad perks, vehicles, and destruction, but while also heavily relying on a formula we've been seeing recycled since at least 2017. But guys, before we jump into the full video, if you enjoy in-depth reviews, breakdowns, and discussions on all things Battlefield, make sure to drop a like and hit subscribe. Now, to kick things off, let's start with the positives. And that being said, I'd argue the RedSec map and its destructive capabilities are some of the best changes we've seen to a Battle Royale in years. Fort Linden is a genuinely fun, dense, and diverse map, and the mode's upgraded destruction isn't just for show, it's a genuine game changer. Having the ability to remove walls, shoot through cover, and bring down entire buildings with camping snipers still inside is such a massive positive that saves the game from the nightmarish roof campers you can find in competitors like Warzone. It keeps the action moving, adds value to a variety of gadgets, and adds a level of problem solving and Battlefield knowledge to the mode that feels right on brand. And while I do believe the map is a little bit more desert military base than the advertised SoCal Santa Monica vibe, it has a density and variety other Battle Royales can't touch. The game's inclusion of destruction gives the developers a lot more freedom to create complex spaces, because at the end of the day, all those interior spaces can go away with a few RPGs. Now, another area this Battle Royale excels in is the integration of squad gameplay and its synergy. Allowing the player's class choice to affect their gadgets and perks within the mode was totally the right call. Whether it be resupplying the squad with support or opening safes with the engineer, the interplay between classes is a really great addition that I was honestly worried was going to water down the mode into just a large squad deathmatch. However, whether it be the more noticeable gadgets or the more hidden perks like Assault's ability to armor up faster, all of the kits feel like they have a unique identity and value within the team. Though I do wish these traits were a little better explained within the loadout menus to help quell any confusion, especially from casual fans. But moving on to another area I was pretty surprised to see work so well was the integration of vehicles on such a large scale. Now, your mileage may vary here, but from my experience, vehicles have felt like a pretty well-balanced and integrated aspect of the mode. Whether it be the tons of anti-tank supply drops in the final circle, or just the map's density of cover, I've both utilized vehicles to win, as well as destroyed them to survive.
Oh, right in front of me. In the tank. Fuck.
Okay, it's on it.
Another hit on it.
Tank's down.
There it is. Nice.
Which perhaps foreshadows a larger positive in my eyes, which is that, in general, once the mode starts going, the synergy between the classes, vehicles, map design, and TTK all seem pretty reasonable. Perhaps not perfect, especially when instances of larger issues like ghost bullets pop up, but in general, I feel comfortable pushing threats and looking for solutions to hard situations because of one major factor that separates this from Warzone: the game's lack of SBMM. Battlefield's overall resistance to SBMM, at least in the way other franchises have implemented it, has to be the unsung hero of this game. The fact each game feels relatively similar, no matter your current win-loss record, is such a huge win for the core fanbase. It makes the game so much easier to play for long stretches and can allow a good squad to get into a groove. In fact, my first 2 wins came back to back once me and my friends started getting into the zone, and it's super rare that we run into a totally insane, sweaty match, whether it be in the multiplayer or the Battle Royale. And of course, to top it all off, the fact that RedSec is free to play is going to be great for the game's longevity and could really help players get back into the franchise after being burnt after 2042. It's also worth mentioning that many players on Steam have praised the destruction, squad synergy, and map density as standout features, even if they've criticized the game's technical issues. These aspects show that when the mode works, it captures that team-focused sandbox energy that Battlefield is known for. But as far as positives go, in general, Battlefield's Battle Royale seems to offer a better balanced, more varied experience across a more interesting and dense map, while adding some unique gameplay elements with squad perks, vehicles, and destruction. However, like we're about to talk about, the mode isn't without its flaws, many of which can outweigh some of the game's moments of innovation and instead make the mode feel cheap and unpolished. Now, I'm not trying to drag this mode through the mud that bad, but at the end of the day, when compared to the core multiplayer experience, the Battle Royale feels like a pretty noticeable downgrade in a lot of areas. First off, while the map has a really solid structure and balance from my experience, the Frostbite engine seems to be really pushing itself to make it all happen with 100 players. While the mode sees a noticeable and predictable graphical downgrade from the core multiplayer, making the environment look closer to PUBG than I was expecting, the real issues lie with broken geometry, laggy doors, and windows that clip the player's camera during entry. Overall, the environment just isn't as polished, slick, nor sexy as the base game, with flat lighting, barren interiors, and reduced textures.
What the fuck are we doing?
These are all things you could have predicted, but still a bit of a shift that makes it feel more like a beta than a flagship mode from a premium title. Next, alongside the map's quality issues, the mode itself seems to have even more hitching and performance drops than the base game. Perhaps an expected result of the mode's scale, but still something that adds to that beta feeling. And all these issues, whether it be the graphical downgrades, the less dynamic lighting, or the broken geometry, really detract from the vibe. Warzone keeps a real heft and consistency to its experience with a more dramatic and polished drop sequence, and games like Delta Force offer a more robust experience with a base of operations, multiple ways to extract, and a loot that carries over beyond matches. Meanwhile, Battlefield's weapon upgrades, airstrikes, and second chance mechanics are nice, but they're not anything we haven't seen before, while the in-game missions often feel like a distraction from survival instead of a worthwhile venture. Aside from perhaps vehicle keycards, they don't offer much you can't already find on your own, and typically end up distracting the squad from the ever-moving ring of fire and the main objective of the mode. On top of this, while the core loop is solid, the pacing and repetitiveness are a little tiring, as the mode opts for a consistently collapsing ring of fire instead of multiple rounds of ever smaller rings, which has led to a much more rushed pace in my opinion, opting for more chaos instead of suspense. It also creates a more consistent path for the ring game to game, leading to a little less variety than one might expect. The map has a lot of great POIs, but I feel like the majority of my games ultimately make their way down to somewhere between Ground Zero and downtown. And perhaps the most frustrating part, the one thing that can't be ignored, and has led to the game's review bombing on Steam, is the game mode's forced integration into the Battlefield 6 ecosystem, where players are being forced to complete challenges in RedSec to progress elsewhere in the game. The solution is really easy in my eyes. Every challenge needs an and/or, something like complete 5 missions in the Battle Royale, or capture 10 objectives in multiplayer. A simple solution that highlights the lack of playtesting or forethought that this franchise still seems to suffer from. And that's kind of the whole issue. Battlefield 6, in general, Battle Royale included, just feels poorly tested and lacking in quality control. This is a $400 million project that sold millions of copies, had tens of millions of beta testers, and is one of EA's biggest investments in years. And it just feels like the game is continuing to go downhill in terms of quality control bugs and execution, whether it be Blackwell Field's broken aircraft spawn, the Battle Royale's glitchy map, or the base game's irrational challenges. Battlefield 6 is really pushing out a ton of content, most of which is decent, but Season 1 is a rough step backwards in terms of quality of life and quality of content. And the Battle Royale, while still fun, is perhaps showing that more than anything. It's worth noting that many players on Steam and Reddit have pointed out similar concerns, specifically performance drops, limited pacing variety, and frustration over challenges. However, DICE has acknowledged these problems in a recent Q&A, stating that they are working on optimization and adding more ring variations to improve the late-game pacing in the Battle Royale. So overall, it's a fun but slightly shallow offering that might not do enough for hardcore fans on either side of the aisle, and should have at least had a little more time in the oven. There's a real fun mode buried in here, and we know Battlefield Studios can make great content, but after releasing it a little prematurely, the mode's living on borrowed time. The next few weeks and months will be a huge make-or-break period, and I'm interested to see where they take the mode as well as the cosmetics, challenges, and events surrounding it. I'll definitely still be playing it, and for the most part, I recommend you give it a shot too. But don't expect the level of personality, polish, or depth you'd find with its more entrenched competition. In my eyes, Battlefield's Battle Royale is a small fish in a big pond, but it still has a world of potential. If the developers follow through on improving pacing, performance, and event integration, RedSec could carve out a unique space focused on teamwork and destruction. But let me know what you think in the comments down below, and for everything else Battlefield, stay tuned and subscribe, and as always, thank you guys for watching.